Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Chav Tes of Masechta Yoma, Daf 29. Daf 29 we have some interesting agadatas, like for the kind of like the first Amud. Then the second Amud is interesting. It talks about like things becoming kadosh and kleishares and like at the improper time. It gets a shtickle technical there at the end, but nothing we can't handle at this point. So let's go weiter. Tav Chav Ches Amud Beis, 2, 4, 5 lines from the bottom. Okay, so we were talking about that they would go up and take a look and see if the sun has risen already, and that would indicate that they can already slaughter the Korban Tamid Shel Shachar. There was a situation where they made a mistake with the moon, and they had to throw the Korban Tamid in the garbage, which was chaval. So they have to be careful. And then it says, and then afterwards the Kohen Gadol went to the mikvah. So the Gemara wants to know. Actually no. So the piece about the Gemara, the Kohen Gadol going to the mikvah actually gets a shtickle later, but. We said that you have to, right, so we said that how come specifically they have to go and check to see if the sun rose because of this one time that they made a mistake with the moon. So the Gemara says, Umi Michlif, are you really going to confuse the sun with the moon? But we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yoma says, Rabbi, the sort of rays of the sun or the beam of light that comes from the sun, or from the moon, right? The beam of light emanating from the moon is different than that which comes from the sun. That whereas the light that comes from the moon is like a straight staff, the light that comes from the sun is more scattered. We learned the Bismedrash of Bishmal Yom Hoya. So it says in the Bismedrash of Bishmal that what happened on that day where they made this mistake was that it was a cloudy day. And because it was a cloudy day, so the moon was breaking through the clouds, and it was kilu like the sun, that the sun kind of goes in lots of different directions. So what happened on that day was that the moon, whereas generally the moon would be in a straight beam, because it was cloudy, it was just kind of breaking through wherever it could, and in that way it was similar to the sun, and that's how they made a mistake. Amar Papa Shmamina says, Papa, what do we see from here? Yoma de Eva Kule Shimsha. That a cloudy day we treat as if it's entirely sunny. That whereas in a sunny day there's some sunny parts and some shady parts, a day that is cloudy we treat it as though it's entirely sunny. It's entirely sunny. There's no concept of shade. What's an afkamina? Lema afkamina. The shtuche oris. Well, for putting out hides to dry, that on a sunny day you'd have to put it in the sun, not in the shade, but on a cloudy day you could basically put it anywhere. Alright? Rava, or else like Rava taught, we learned this in Masechta Pesachim, that on Pesach, a woman should not knead her dough in the sun or in hot water heated up by the sun. But if it's in the shade, I guess it would be okay. But on a cloudy day, we just treat it like every place is sunny. Rav Nachman Zuama de Shimsha Kashi Mishimsha says Rav Nachman that on a cloudy day, the heat that comes from the sun is actually stronger than heat that comes directly from the sun. V'simanach dona dechala. And the sign, the metaphor that you can use is a barrel of vinegar. That if you have a barrel of vinegar and you're sealing it really tight so that the vinegar remains strong, well, if you puncture a hole in that kli, in that vessel, in that container or barrel that we're saying, so if you puncture if you puncture a hole in it, well, the smell that's going to come out of it is going to be stark because it was all being sealed in very well. So the same thing here also, when you have the sun behind the clouds, so because the light and the heat of the sun is being sealed in very well, if it can break through in a certain spot, it's going to be stark. It's going to be very strong. Shavriyah de shimsha kashu mishimsha. So also similarly, if you have breaks in the clouds and you have like a beam of light breaking through the clouds and coming down to earth, so that'll be stronger than the sun in general on a sunny day. V'simanich dilfa, and the metaphor for that is a drop. That if you drop water on a person, it could be much more uncomfortable than if you just chuck him into a body of water. So here also the drop is the metaphor for the individual sort of stream of light coming from the sun breaking through the clouds on a cloudy day. We're going to have a lot of these metaphors coming up over the next few lines. Hirhure avera, koshume avera, thinking about a sin and the taiva that precedes doing a sin is even stronger than the taiva experienced during the sin itself. V'simanich reicha de bisra, and the metaphor for that is the smell of meat, of a barbecue, right? Imagine you have a fellow who's mamish craving meat, craving a barbecue, and the next door neighbor is having a barbecue. He's mamish going nuts because he wants to partake. The people at the barbecue should go take it for granted. Like, sure, they're hungry, they have an appetite, but it's not as stark as the fellow who really wants it. Shile dikaita, kasha mikaita, the end of the summer is stronger, more stark than the summer, right? Like Elul time, the heat over there is very stark because the world, everything's been heating up over the whole summer. Now this is like the pinnacle of it. So even like a little bit of heat can go a long way. V'simanach tanura krira, and the sign for that, the metaphor is a what? No, I skipped. Tanura shgira. The metaphor for that is a well-used oven. So if you have an oven that is, keeps on getting lit over and over, so then it doesn't take very much to ignite it. Ishta de sitva kasha midikaita, a fever in the winter is going to be a stronger fever than in the summer, because in the summer you're hot already. So to heat up a little bit more, not that big of a deal. But in the winter, your body's cold. So the fact that you can manage to get a fever even in the winter when your body's cold and the fever is so stark that it's even heating up a cold body, that means that we're talking about a serious fever over here. V'simanach tanura krira, and the sign for this is a cold oven. Imagine you have a cold oven, it's going to take a lot of wood and a lot of fire to heat it up. So here also, if you manage to have a fever in the winter, it must mean that there's mamash a fire raging in your little body. Migamer ba'atika kasha michadata. It is more difficult to learn something that you once knew but forgot than to learn something for the first time. V'simanich tina bartina, and the metaphor for that is cement. That if you have fresh cement, so it's easier to mix than if you have to take like actual cement and break it up and then only make new cement out of that. Omer Rababo, my time at the Rebbe. Rababo says, how come Rebbe says that the light of the sun kind of darts out in lots of different directions? Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, Lamanatseach in Tehillim, Lamanatseach al ayeles hashachar. To the composer, right? To the composer al ayeles hashachar, on the deer of the morning, on the doe of the morning. So my ayala karneh maftilos lechan ulechan, just like a doe. So as Rashi points out, it's not technically a doe because a doe would not have what are they called? They're not called antlers, right? Because that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about the antlers of a deer. But we're saying just like a deer, basically, its antlers go in all sorts of directions. So afshachar zeh maftia lechan ulechan, also the sun of the morning, the light of the morning, branches out in all sorts of directions. Reb Zera says, Reb Zera, this is Taka Gemara that we saw in Masechta Eruvin. Lamanim shel Esther la'ayala. How come Esther was compared to a doe? Just like a doe, it has a very narrow womb, and it is as beloved to the male deer who sleeps with it, who mounts it every time as if it's the first time. So Esther, also Esther was very beloved upon Achashverosh, that every time he was with her, it was like the first time they were together. Amar Reb Asi, Lamanim shla Esther l'shachar, says Reb Asi, how come Esther was compared to the morning? Lomar l'chad setu ma'shachar, sof kol ha'layla, just like the morning is the end of the night. Af Esther sof kol ha'nisim, also Esther was the conclusion, was the end of all miracles. That was the last miracle. Vayika Chanukah, but Chanukah happened after that. That was a miracle. The Nes Chanukah, the miracle of Chanukah. Nitna likaseh. So, ka'aminon. So the Gemara says, yeah, but what's unique about Esther is that it was written down. Right? That's the last book of the Bible that made it into the canon of the Tanakh. So just like the morning is the end of the night, so also Esther is the end of the miracles that are recorded in the Tanakh. So this taka makes sense according to the opinion that Esther was allowed to be recorded, allowed to be written down, but apparently it's taka machlokas Masechta Megillah. Esther lo nitna likaseh, but according to the opinion that Esther was not allowed to be written down, Michael Maimer. So then, what happens to that shot of Rav Asi, who says that why is Esther compared to the morning? Well, just like the morning is the end of the day of the night, so also Esther was the end of the miracles written in the Tanakh. But what if you're the Manda Amru who says that Esther is not written in the Tanakh? So Mukam Lakar Binyam Bar Yefes, so then he makes the comparison like Binyam Bar Yefes learns, Amr Belazar, Damar Binyam Bar Yefes, Amr Belazar, Lamanimshul Tfilasun, Shatzadikim Kayeles. How come the prayers of the righteous are compared to a doe? Lomer Lechat Tesetu Ma'ayala Zo, Kos Manchmagadeles, Karnea, Maftilos. Just like this deer, as it grows, its horns kind of go, its antlers go off in all directions. Av tzadikim, also the righteous, kos manchemayim mitfila, tfilos and nishmas, when they increase and beseech the Eibishter with lots of prayer, so the prayer is listened to. Okay. Moving on, shachtu es hatamid v'chulei. Okay, so the Mishnah had said that there was that one time that they made a mistake between the sun and the moon. They slaughtered the korban tam shachar, then they realized that it was actually still nighttime, so they had to throw it in the garbage. And then afterwards, the Kohen Gadol goes to the mikvah. So for the Gemara, Ema, what are we talking about here? There was a korban tam shachar, they messed up, they had to throw it in the garbage, the Kohen Gadol goes to the mikvah. What are we talking about? If we say that we're not talking about Yom Kippur, we're talking about some random day. So what's specific about the Kohen Gadol? The Kohen Gadol had to go to the mikvah, said he could then offer the korban tamid. Anybody could offer the korban tamid. El b'yom kippurim. Okay, fine. So we're talking about Yom Kippur. That's why it was the Kohen Gadol going to the mikvah. But would there ever have been such a situation on Yom Kippur where they got confused between the sun and the moon? On Yom Kippur, the nights are still long. It's not like you're going to have the moon and the sun right next to each other in the morning. In the winter, you can have the sun and the moon right next to each other because things happen quicker. Oh no, sorry. In the summer, the nights are shorter, right? But I guess there's less of a period at that point, at least of Yom Kippur. There's less of a period where the sun and the moon would be like kind of overlapping, and therefore there wouldn't really be a close call. Okay. So therefore, so if it's Yom Kippur, so I understand why it's the Kohen Gadol going to the mikveh, but what I don't understand is why around Yom Kippur time would they be confusing the sun and the moon? Hachi Kamer. This is what the Mishnah is saying. They're unrelated. It's saying two separate things. The first thing that the Mishnah says is that in the morning they would go and they would look to see if the sun has risen, and if so, they say this Barak Barkai, and then they say, oh, by the way, there was this one time, how can we do it? There was this one time, they confused the sun and the moon. Okay, great, done. Now, back to our original point. They said Barak Barkai, right? It would be the morning. They would say, okay, it's the morning, and at that point, on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol would go to the mikvah, but the Kohen Gadol going to the mikvah is not particularly related to the moon and getting mixed up with the sun. Tani Avur Reb Oven says Avur, the father of Reb Oven, okay, so says Avur Reb Oven, and now here this gets a hard cup of shtickle. So over here says the father of Reb Oven, Lozo Bavad Amru. This was not the only case. Only case of what? This was not the only case where a korban had to be thrown in the garbage, well burnt. Rather, even the malika on a bird. What's malika? Who could tell me? Malika is when you have a bird. So the way that they would slaughter the bird was not with a knife. The Kohanim had very long fingernails, and they would kill the bird that way. Ukmitzas mincha, and taking a fistful of flour for korban mincha. These things as well. Balayla tisarif. If you do them at night, you're just gonna have to burn it and throw it in the garbage. These things have to be done during the day. Says the Gemara, I understand why a bird, if you accidentally killed it at night, you have to throw it in the garbage. Chaval. But what are you going to do? Bring it back to life? But oven, when it comes to the komets, the fistful of flour, just put it back. And then take it a second time during the day, and then fix it that way. How come you have to burn it? Just put back the fistful and wait until it's light, and then take it again. So Avuad Rab Avin asks the kasha, and he answers the kasha. That's his answer. His answer is, well, technically yes, we are just talking about a fistful. It's not like the bird where it's dead and it's too late. However, once you take the komets, the fistful, and you put it in a vessel, so then it already becomes kadosh kedushas haguf, holy, right? It itself becomes holy, and you can't invert that. You can't revert that. And therefore, once you take that komets and put it in a klisharis, so then it's too late. And therefore, even though he took the komets at night, it's still going to, you're going to have to burn it. Fine. Meisvei, but we have a kasha. What's the kasha? Ze'aklal, this is the rule. Kol hakarev bayom, anything that is offered during the day, okay, fine. Kadosh bayom, it specifically becomes kadosh, holy during the day. V'chol hakarev balayla, and anything that's able to be offered at night, skip to the end of the next line. Kadosh bein bayom uvein balayla. So it becomes holy whether you do it at night or whether you do it during the day. So Rashi gives some examples. If you look at Rashi to the left, he says, these are things that have to be done during the day. So these things specifically have to be done during the day. But things that can be done at night, for example, minchas nesachim, the mincha libations, those can be done at night. So then if you do them either during the day or at night, in both cases they'll become kadosh. But something that needs to be offered during the day, so you have to offer it during the day. So, frek the Gemara, so frek the Gemara, so we just said that anything that's offered during the day, so it becomes holy during the day, not at night. And therefore, if you take the komets at night, even though it has to be done during the day, so I would think, then it would not become kadosh. So Dilma Eino Kadosh Likar Val Kadosh Lipasul. You can answer and say, well, when we say that it only becomes Kadosh during the day but not at night, that means that if you do it at night, you can't offer it as a korban. Kilu, if you take that komets at night, you can't use it for a korban mincha. But it does become pasul. Right? So it doesn't become kadosh in that you can use it for the korban. It does become kadosh in that it becomes restricted, in that it becomes pasul. Masiv Reb Zera asked a kasha, Sider es alechem ves habozichin achar Shabbos. So if you have a fellow who put the bread into the lechem upon him into the shulchan, and he put the bazichin, the like spoons, the receptacles that the frankincense was in, he put them on top of the table. Now this stuff is these things are supposed to happen during the day, on Shabbos. But he didn't do it on Shabbos, rather he did it achar Shabbos. He did it after Shabbos, on Sunday. Viktor abazichin b'Shabbos, psula. And he then burnt the incense the following Shabbos, it's psula. Kate said, Yaisa, what should he do? He should wait till the next Shabbos. Shafilu amda al shulchan yom rabim ein b'chach klum, because you can leave the frankincense on the shulchan for a long time. There isn't necessarily a time limit. So what happened in this case? In this case is that even though you're supposed to put the lechem aponim in the shulchan and the bazichin of frankincense on top of the shulchan on Shabbos, he didn't do that. He did it after Shabbos. So what do we say? So we say, okay, well, if that's the case, you didn't put it in at the proper time on Shabbos, you only did it after Shabbos, well then don't offer the incense the coming week, the coming Shabbos. Rather, offer it the Shabbos after that. And it would be considered that you basically missed your chance for the first Shabbos. And on the sort of upcoming Shabbos, that's when the frankincense and the lechem aponim will be used. It'll be like for that next Shabbos. And then you will burn the frankincense the Shabbos after that, right? So like you missed Shabbos 1, you only did it after Shabbos 1. So we say, okay, so you missed a chance for Shabbos 1. This will be the bread and the incense for the next Shabbos. And then, of course, once you have the bread then stays in the shulchan for a whole week, and the incense, and then the following week, which in our example is basically essentially Shabbos number 3, right? You missed Shabbos 1, you only put it in after Shabbos. The bread and the incense that you put there is going to then be ki'ilu the bread and the incense for Shabbos, for the upcoming Shabbos, and then it stays in the shulchan for another week, and then you would only burn the incense basically on the third Shabbos. So, okay, fine. Ve'amai, perfecting Gemara, how come? Tigdosh v'tipasel. If what Reb Avin is saying is that, if what Rav Avin is saying, which is that this komets that you took at night it can't be kadosh to be offered as a korban, but it does become pasul, well then I would think also in this case that the lechem aponim and the frankincense that were put on the shulchan in its improper time should become pasul, right? Just like the komets that was done at its improper time becomes pasul. So I would think also then that the lechem aponim and the bazichin that were done at the improper time should also become pasul. So Amarava, Mandakamosa, Shaper Kamosa. So Rava says, it's taka a good question what you're asking. But V'avua D'Rab Nasin, D'Rab Avin, Nami Masnisa Ka'amar. But the fact of the matter is that Avodah Rab Avin wasn't saying his own opinion, he was quoting a brisa. Right? If we look back at the beginning, it says, Tani Avodah Rab Avin. Rab Avin taught from a brisa, Lozo Bavad Amru, Elaf Malikas Ovu, Kmitzas Mincha Balal Tisar. He's quoting from a brisa that this kmitza that you do at night, you have to burn because it becomes pasul. And therefore, Rava says, look, we have to try and reconcile these brises. So on the one hand, we have a brisa that seems to be saying that if you do a kmitza at night, it's pasul. On the other hand, we seem to be saying that when it comes to putting the bread and the frankincense on the shulchan at its improper time, it's no problem, just don't use it for the upcoming week, use it for the week after that. But shouldn't it be possible because you did it at its improper time? So, v'kasavar laila ein mechusar zman, yom mechusar zman. So, Rava answers it by saying that in the case of the komets, what did he do? He did it already on the right day, technically, just at the wrong time, right? Meaning, this komets was supposed to be taken, this fistful of flour was supposed to be taken during the day. He did it too early, though. Now, let's say it's Monday. So he was supposed to wait until after Amud HaShachar on Monday, right? Till it was light out on Monday. But he didn't do it. He did it a little bit early. So he did it, a little bit before it got light out. But technically, of course, according to Jewish law, the day starts already the night before. So technically it was the right day. He just didn't wait until the daytime. He did it a shtickle early, but it was the same day. And therefore, it's enough for it to be, right? It's not mechusar zman. It's not lacking a time. It's just, you did it a little bit earlier, but it's already the same day. And therefore, the komets that he takes and he puts in the klei shares, it becomes kadosh in order for it to become pasul. Which is not the case when he mamish puts the bread and the frankincense on the shulchan on the wrong day. It's bichlal, right? It's mechusar zman. It's not even the right time frame bichlal. It was supposed to be on Shabbos. He did it on Sunday, and because it's the wrong time frame, it's not going to become pasul. That's what Rava wants to say. Let's read that again. Because that when you take the komets when it's still dark out, it's not yet light out, it's not mechusar zman. It's the same day that you are allowed to take and that you're supposed to take the komets. Just you did it a little bit earlier on that day, a little bit too early on that day. However, because it's the same day, so putting the komets in the klei sharis is going to make it kadosh, kedushas haguf, to become pasul. But yom mechusar zman. However, when you take the lechem aponim and the frankincense and you put it on the shulchan after Shabbos on Sunday, it's mamish the wrong day bichlal, and therefore it's not going to become kadosh, to become pasul. But frekti gemara kimati beishimsha tikdosh v'ti pasul v'tifsol. Frekti gemara shtarka kasha, which is fine. So maybe on Sunday it's the wrong day, and it won't become pasul. And maybe also on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday also. What happens Friday night? Just like we said that when it comes to the komets, when you do it, when it's still night out, a little bit too early, but because it's the same day that you would be allowed to do it, therefore it becomes pasul. What happens Friday night? Once you now get to Friday night, and this bread and frankincense that you put on the shulchan on Sunday is now ready to be used the following day on Shabbos, but now it's there on Friday night, which is too early. You're only supposed to put it on Shabbos day. So now just like the komets became pasul at night, when you did it a little bit too early at night, well then also the lechem aponim and the frankincense that was sitting on the shulchan all week, comes Friday night, you put it on too early, and it should become pasul from being in the shulchan too early. So Ravina says, well, they were waiting for this, and they removed the lechem aponim and the frankincense Friday night in order to prevent this pasul from happening. They took it off of the table Friday night, so that comes Friday night, they would not be on the shulchan and become pasul. Rashi Omer says, Rashi, you can even say that they didn't remove the lechem aponim and the bazichin from the shulchan on Friday night, but that since they put this bread and the frankincense on the shulchan improperly on a Sunday, it's not supposed to be done on a Sunday, it's supposed to be done on a Shabbos, therefore it's as though like a monkey put it there, and it's not even considered like it was done properly at all, and therefore it doesn't even become pasul. Well, now it's Daf Chav Tes. It got a little complicated there at the end, right? That Amud Beis, but Akoponim. So what do we discuss? We discussed some interesting Gemaras on the first Amud. Hirhure Avera Kashu Me Avera was interesting. That Esther is compared to the morning, because like the morning is the end of the night. Esther was the last of the miracles to be recorded in Tanakh. Very, very interesting. And that the prayers of tzaddikim are compared to a deer whose antlers go out in a whole bunch of places. Also, when the Yidden have a lot of tefillah, when the tzaddikim have a lot of tefillahs, so then they get answered. And then we got to this sort of complicated statement of Avud Reb Avin, who says that it's not only the korban tamid that when you slaughter it too early, you have to burn it, but also the komets, you would have to do the same thing, because when you put it in the klei sharis at night, it becomes kadosh kedushas haguf in order to become pasul. Even though it wouldn't be kadosh in order to offer it as a korban because it's too early, it's at night still. However, it would become pasul that way. Then we ask the shaila based on the lechem aponim, which is that, well, the lechem aponim, if you put it on the shulchan not at the right time, right after Shabbos, we say no problem, it's okay, just leave it, just leave it there, and then this will be your bread and your frankincense for the upcoming Shabbos, and then you'll eat it the Shabbos after that, no problem. But if it's not at the right time, shouldn't become pasul. So we gave two answers. One answer was that, no, we said Rava answers and says, well, there's a big difference between the kometz and the lechem apanim. The kometz, you're doing it on the proper day, on the same day that you would be allowed to offer this kometz. Just wait till after it becomes light outside. So then, therefore, because it's on that day, you'd be allowed to offer it, but you just did it too early, and now it's nighttime. So then it's going to be kadosh kedushas haguf from the klei sharis, and it's going to the extent that it becomes pasul. However, the bread that you put on the lechem apanim and the frankincense that you put there onto the shulchan, bichlal, not on its proper day. You're supposed to do it on Shabbos, you did it on Sunday. Therefore, it doesn't become pasul. It's just totally out of, right? It's completely the wrong day. Then we said, yeah, but what about when it comes the upcoming Friday night, which then becomes the same situation as the kometz that you did a little bit early the night before, right? When it's still night out. So also, this lechem apanim on Friday night becomes pasul because it's the same day that you're supposed to be putting it on the shulchan, but it's too early. So we gave two answers. One answer was that the Taka took it off Friday night to avoid this. The other answer was that no, since you mamish messed up so badly that you did it on completely the wrong day, it's as though a monkey put it there, Keilu, it's just not even something that we would consider. So, that was Daf Chavtes. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers.